told me that. So.
Yeah. Lori Wallach, I mean, just looking at your title, Rethink Trade Program, right? One imagines that you have wanted to see changes to the global economy and the way that trade works. So talk to me about how you see these tariffs.
Well, what Trump has done is really the master class in how not to use tariffs. And the fallout we're seeing is one part powerful commercial interests, including finance, that don't want to see any change. And so something like a capital strike. And half of it or more is basically incompetence and malfeasance. And there theoretically there's a theory to the case of what they're doing, but and there is actually a paper folks should read that the guy who's now the Council of Economic Advisors, an economist named Stephen Mirren, wrote, that is the handbook to changing the rules of the global economy. But what Trump has done has no real relationship to what Mirren suggested, which is a combination of, yes, tariffs, but other policies as well, including trying to deal with the fact that the U.S. dollar, as the world reserve currency, is overvalued. I mean, the reality is... But doesn't that provide some benefits to the U.S.? That's the thing. It seems like being able to pay your debts in the currency you print is a kind of an advantage, not a disadvantage. Well, people, it used to be called the exorbitant privilege, but I think it's become like the exorbitant burden, because it also means that other countries are able to control the value of your currency. And so we have a scenario where trade is so unbalanced now that there are 16 mercantilist countries that have chronic large trade surpluses, and they use, what are typically called beggar thy neighbor trade abuses, one of which is they either, by purchasing lots of assets in the currency, bid up treasuries, bid up the value of the dollar. So they are trading. When they send an export, one of these countries is trading in their own currency. When it hits the U.S., it gets a benefit that distorts the actual value of what the good is, as well as enormous subsidies, as well as these countries suppressing wages, or in the case of Germany, suppressing their domestic consumption. So we have 16 countries that are exporting making and exporting an enormous amount of stuff. The U.S. has by far the largest chronic global deficit. We've had one every year since 1975. It's now ginormous, but we're not the only one. At this point, things are so out of whack. There are 66 countries in the world that have chronic large deficits. And it's not just us, but it's Mexico, it is South Africa, it is Brazil, it is Indonesia that are having to put up tariffs against, for instance, the biggest mercantilist, China. And so the idea of using tariffs, if it was not malpractice, would be in part to rebalance some of that, and you would do it in partnership with the other countries that are in the same boat.
We're going to come back to that with Kyle Handley and Stephanie Flanders after the break. We're talking with Lori Wallach, director of the Rethink Trade program at the American Economic Liberties Project, UC San Diego's Kyle Handley, and Bloomberg Economics' Stephanie Flanders.